and thanks for the invite. I think I've got a few things I wanted to talk through when Lesley and the guys asked me to discuss how Gardners approach the vital topic of building revenues. And I think one of the things I would like to start with is to say that the ideas I'm about to talk about are certainly not the only way things can be done. I'm not even sure they're the best way that things can be done, but we do have a plan, and I think that's probably the most important thing. Growth is vital. Your survey sort of confirms that. Everyone seems to agree that growth is the priority for everyone, and I think that's on the basis if you're not growing, you are shrinking. So these are our ideas at Gardners. I'm sure people will have. There's nothing very new under the sun, but I'm not trying to put them down, as I say, as the only way or even the best way. But it is a plan, and we're sticking to it. So just to give you a little bit of an overview of Gardners, some similar topics to the ones that Will spoke about there. Gardners is a £30 million, 100-colleague business founded in the early 70s, based on a 4-acre purpose-built site in Cardiff. So quite a sizable operation. It was bought out of administration by myself and James Morris in 2012. But then last year, we decided that the time was right to become part of a larger group. We looked about, we had some chats ourselves with Paddy, and looked at 2 or 3 other people. And I guess we were feeling a little bit like, even as a 12, 13 million pound business, which I know is probably bigger than quite a lot of businesses in our industry, I still felt very much like a cork on the ocean some days. It's a very big market, it's a very big economy, and it felt like to grow, we really needed to be part of something better. So we are now part of the 65 million pound group of companies, a shadow of the size of Paragon, but still a sizable organisation, which includes Kessler's and very recently Blaze Signs, which is now known as the Hexide Group. And we're owned by a PE company called Elagmore. And the reasons for that are very similar to the ones that I think that the Will mentioned. And it was really all about helping us build revenues. The business is focused on 4 key market sectors: retail and point of sale, fleet, out of home, and events and venues. And that diversification has served us well over the last few years, and particularly during the COVID period. And since we became part of a private equity-owned organisation, you can probably all imagine that we are now highly growth-oriented. And that's what the attraction to Elagmore was when they saw Gardners. It's fair to say that COVID-19 hit us like a hammer. We lost £1 million of work in the last few days of March, which is quite a lot to a company that turns over £1 million a month. So that was a very worrying few days for us. What surprised me was how quickly that work was replaced with mainly COVID messaging work, mainly for retail and mainly for large grocery. So that we ended up having a period supported by the government furlough schemes and the job retention schemes that actually meant our COVID period, and I've heard this from some companies, was actually quite a successful period for us. I would never have thought that at the end of March, but that's how it's turned out to be. So we came into the autumn thinking, okay, we're hopefully getting back to sort of a business as usual period. And now I have a feeling we're going into a COVID phase 2 period. So all my plans may have disappeared, as I'm sure a lot of other people's have. During the COVID period, we very much were relying on retail, the out-of-home and event sectors, which we'd only really gone into in the last few years. As retail was starting to struggle, the out-of-home and the event sectors then pretty much collapsed for us during COVID, and our work was very retail-based. And as I say, I'm not sure what this second phase of COVID-19 is going to do. The one thing I would say is, because there's a little bit more experience, we have now got an onslaught again of second tier or second phase COVID messaging. So I'm now slightly worried that we're not going to be the other way around, where we actually win the extra orders and then some perhaps business as usual orders are going to be cancelled. They haven't yet, but who knows. But I guess all of this just says that a growth plan is essential. And we base ours on 4 pillars. And these 4 pillars are really all I wanted to talk about and what I will leave you with you. I'll reiterate, this may not be the best way. It certainly isn't the only way, but it is a plan and we stick to it. The first pillar is what we call, or what I call, systematic and consistent new business development activity. In our view, new business development is not luck, it's not skill, it's not even hard work, although all of those things are very welcome. It's a process that becomes a habit. If we continue doing the things we do in new business, we know we will get the results. Our new business team is fully segregated from our key account management teams, meaning the 2 sales roles, managing our client relationships and winning new client relationships, are separate. And I think it's very important that they remain separate. We have a strong marketing-led program now of social media and electronic stroke digital marketing, controlled via a 90-day rolling plan. So that every week we know what's going out on social media, we know what's going out in terms of electronic mail, and we're following that up consistently. This is where I talk about the systematic and consistent approach. That work is being followed up consistently and reported back to board level. This program has one goal, and that's to deliver warm and qualified leads to our new business team. We manage the program through a licensed CRM tool, a client relationship management tool called HubSpot, which does cost us a few quid, but we find it's worthwhile because it also ties very well into our marketing activity. So we can keep the monitor of that all in one place. And on top of this, we are in the process of putting a Hexite group proposition together to support our individual business propositions. So what we've decided is that the businesses will remain separate businesses, separate brands, and they can sell and will sell as separate entities, but we will also have a group message. So pillar 1 is this systematic and consistent new business activity. Pillar 2, to support that, is automation and capital investment. We're finding that lead time and speed to market is vital to winning new business. We're finding that the digital print obsolescence curve is beginning to flatten. And by this, I mean the technology evolution, whilst continuing, is slowing. And further to this, digital printing is becoming increasingly dominant, and is probably now dominant at the expense of traditional screen and lifetime printing techniques in our industry. This means companies like Gardners can move back into the mainstream of retail printing particularly. As some larger players, the likes of SP and Bezier, have failed as the retail landscape has shrunk somewhat. It's left a space for companies like us to move into it at perhaps a smaller scale than companies like that were operating. So we have very much decided to move back into this mainstream of retail print, alongside our other sectors I've talked about. However, to service retail, speed and lead time reduction are everything. We're finding that the time we can turn work around is almost more important than the price. So automation, both in terms of digital workflow and manufacturing, is high on my agenda. To that effect, we've got an imminent £2 million CapEx plan, which in terms of IT and automation and new machinery, both in the production and importantly in the finishing areas for the business over the next year or so. So we continue to invest. So pillar 1, systematic and consistent new business activity. Pillar 2, automation and capital investment. Pillar 3 for us is differentiation. Differentiation and diversification we think are vital. The Hexite proposition will be useful for us in that, because on occasion, the wider group proposition with permanent point of sale through Kessler's, signage and installation through Blaze will be more attractive than a pure Gardners proposition. So we are going to do quite a lot of work on that over the next year. As Gardners, as a standalone business Gardners, we will be focusing on investigating new markets, both in terms of product. So a good example there is we're starting to look at using our machinery for packaging materials, but also in terms of sector. A good example there would be Gardners never dealt with sports venues, and now we have 3 or 4 quite major sports venues on our books in the last year or so. So we investigate new products and new sectors all the time. We're taking big effort to remind our clients who continually pigeonhole us that we do other things. So where we're doing a lot of things for one client, but then maybe not doing them at all for another client, we're really trying to cross-fertilize the key clients to use all of the services we can offer. We're focusing quite a lot this year on sustainability. We have a green promise to our clients that we will try wherever possible to offer greener alternatives if they're available. I think it's fair to say, and I'm sure most people would agree, there's still a price premium to that, but it's going to be important and increasingly important, we believe. And also we're trying to acquire niche products and niche licenses where possible. A gripper, which is a fleet signage system, has been very, very successful for us. And products like Reactive Air, which is a coating which we can put on major building wraps and fleet sides, which will actually, it's designed to develop, to keep product clean, but it has a lovely side effect of reducing the nitrous dioxide, one of the sort of environmental nasties in the atmosphere. And we're finding that's being very successful. And what we also find is that if we have these niche products, going back to the last point, we can then talk about our other core products to these same clients. So pillar 3, differentiation. Pillar 4, final pillar to us, is commercial control. It's been very easy, and we've definitely done this, to fall into the busy fool trap. It's quite easy to win work at low margin. And we've certainly done that, and we've been strong about trying to come out of that market. It's vital to understand cost and margin at the top table. We don't leave that to the sales team and the estimators, especially over a certain level of cost. So it's something I spend a lot of my time working at sort of the cost and margin level of the business. We escalate all cost and margin sign-offs to as senior level as we can without sacrificing speed to market. And we find that's very, very important. And we have daily Teams calls with our sales team and our commercial team to understand opportunities and risks in real time. By Teams, I mean MS Teams, so video calls, as our sales team is spread around the country. So in summary, 4 key pillars: sell more through a systematic and consistent new business approach, increase the speed to market through automation and capital investment, offer more through differentiation and diversification, and know your numbers through a strong commercial control. As I say, it's not the only way, it may not even be the best way, but it's our way, and we stick to it. So thank you very much.
Thanks for that, Richard. Just a quick question, if you don't mind. Obviously, new business and differentiation are quite key for you, and you talk about the importance for Gardners of being part of a suite of companies such as Hexite, so that you can do that. What do you think about mergers and acquisitions generally? Do you think we're about to see a lot more, and do you think we'll see a lot more purchases specifically of companies beyond print?
I absolutely. I think I've thought over a few years. I'm sure I've had conversations with you in the past, yes. Lesley. I've definitely had conversations with people like Will in the past. I think we've all seen that consolidation was coming to the market. And I think we were all right several years ago, and it's just going to continue. I do think it adds quite a lot. Interestingly, I found personally, my background was in the Bezier Group for 15 years, a large company. I found I work better in that environment because it's quite good to be pushed by an external party. Oh. I think sometimes that as being a standalone owner, there was a lot of pressure, and also it was easy to sort of relax and perhaps take the foot off the pedal a little bit more. So I find it quite an enjoyable environment, having someone else, a chairman of the company, ring up and checking how things are going and what's going and wanting his pound of flesh. That's just personal. Yeah. But now, to answer the question, I think consolidation of like-minded companies, similar companies, and different companies will continue.
Okay.
And I'll be
Thank you.
talking to Paragon next year, I'm sure, when Hexite was to sell.
Thank you. Appreciate that.